Philadelphia news, team of my heart. A three-time NBA champion just announced his retirement, and it hits close to home for Sixers fans. You watched him knock down clutch threes, help push the Sixers toward a title, and now, after battling injuries and trades, he's calling it a career. How did this impact you as a fan? We'll break it all down in the Sixers news update. Don't miss out, hit subscribe and click the bell to stay updated on all the latest Sixers news. You know, it's tough to imagine a player like this finally calling it a career. For over a decade, you've seen him hit clutch shots, play key roles in playoff runs, and bring home championship hardware. But at 37, after years of grinding through the highs and the lows of NBA life, the time has come. And no matter how much you wanted to see him put on that Sixers jersey one more time, the game has to end eventually. His journey wasn't always straightforward. After being drafted, he didn't find immediate success. You saw him bounce from team to team early on, trying to find a foothold in a league that's never kind to those who can't prove themselves quickly. But he did. Oh, he did. And when he locked in with that legendary San Antonio squad, you knew there was something special about him. He wasn't just there to fill a role, he became an integral part of one of the NBA's most well-oiled machines. Years later, when he arrived in Philadelphia, you could feel the excitement. A veteran with championships under his belt, a sharpshooter who had already been through it all, and now he was on your team. A player who knew what it took to win at the highest level, who had ice in his veins in the biggest moments. When he came to the Sixers, it wasn't just about filling out the roster. It was about taking the next step in the quest for a title. His first season in Philly, you could see the impact immediately. Starting games, spreading the floor, hitting key shots, it was exactly what the Sixers needed at the time. He gave you reasons to believe. Every time he lined up a three-pointer, you felt like it was going in. He was the kind of player who made you feel confident, who could change the momentum of a game with one shot. And in a city like Philly, where every play matters, he delivered. But you know it wasn't just about the numbers. Sure, 10 points per game, shooting over 40% from three, that's impressive. But it was the moments that stuck with you. The corner threes, the defensive stops, the veteran presence that helped guide the younger players. He knew what it took to succeed in this league, and he brought that knowledge to the Sixers. It's why, when playoff time rolled around, you weren't just hoping for success, you expected it. Even though injuries started to take their toll, especially that knee injury in the playoffs, you knew he wasn't going to give up easily. After all, he'd been through tough stretches before, and every time, he found a way to bounce back. When he re-signed with the Sixers, you probably felt like there was unfinished business. He still had something left to give, and the team still had that ultimate goal in mind. But then came the trade. And while it made sense for the Sixers, bringing in a player like D'Anthony Melton was a key move, it was still hard to see him go. You always hate losing a player who's been a key part of the team's success, someone who's given you so many great moments to remember. It's never easy when those business decisions come around. Now, after a career that's seen more than 800 regular season games, countless playoff battles, and 3 championships, the final chapter has been written. So, did you already know I was talking about Danny Green? The sharpshooting veteran who made his mark not just in Philly, but across the entire NBA. His name is one you've heard countless times, and each mention comes with respect. 3-time NBA champion. A player who always knew how to show up when the stakes were at their highest. When Green landed in Philadelphia, it felt like the missing piece. The Sixers had the talent, but Danny brought something different, experience. You know how much that means, especially when you're trying to win a title. He wasn't just a role player, he was a proven winner. And every time he took the court in a Sixers jersey, you felt like you had a little bit of that championship aura on your side. But let's be real, Green's impact wasn't just about the banners he helped raise. It was the attitude, the professionalism, and the calm he brought to the game. Remember those tight moments late in the game when you'd hold your breath as the ball swung to him in the corner? That corner three, his specialty. You could see the defense scramble, and yet, there was nothing they could do to stop it. He'd drain it, and all you could think was, that's Danny. Sure, his numbers in Philly weren't off the charts, around 10 points per game in his first season, but you and I both know it's never just about stats. It's about timing, about clutch moments, about coming through when it matters. Danny did that. He hit those big shots, game after game, in some of the biggest spots. And as a Sixers fan, you could feel the confidence that brought. He was a player you trusted. His leadership was another thing you noticed right away. Even if he wasn't always the loudest voice, you could tell the younger guys looked up to him. Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, they knew what Danny brought to the table. You saw it in how they approached the game, how they handled pressure situations. His influence wasn't always front and center, but it was there, quietly pushing the team forward. Of course, there were setbacks. That playoff knee injury, it was brutal, especially because you knew how much the Sixers needed him in that moment. He tried to fight through it, but some injuries just don't heal fast enough. Still, the fact that he was re-signed showed how much the organization believed in him. Even after that tough break, they knew Danny had more to offer, and you probably felt the same way. There was still hope that he'd be part of something special in Philly. But then came the trade. You understood the reasoning, but it didn't make it any easier. Green was sent to Memphis in that deal for D'Anthony Melton, a move that ultimately helped the Sixers get better. You know how it goes in this league, sometimes tough decisions have to be made. Still, watching Danny leave was a blow. For a guy who had given so much to this team, it wasn't easy seeing him suit up for another squad. Even though his time with Memphis was brief, and he ended up back in Cleveland by the season's end, you probably always thought of him as part of the Sixers family. He was one of those players who left a mark, no matter how long he wore the uniform. And when he returned to Philly, even for those 2 games, it was like everything had come full circle. But then, the trade with the Clippers happened, and Danny Green found himself on the outside once again. Now, after all those years, you look back on his career and see the bigger picture. He wasn't just a shooter or a 3-time champion, he was a professional, a leader, and someone who always found a way to contribute, no matter the situation. Now, with Danny Green officially hanging up his jersey, how do you feel about the impact he made on the Sixers and the league as a whole? You watched him come in, step up in the biggest moments, and leave his mark. He wasn't just any player, he was a crucial part of this team's push to the top. And whether he was hitting those iconic corner threes or leading by example in the locker room, his influence was undeniable. Green's journey through the NBA might have taken him to several teams, but it's his time in Philadelphia that stands out to you. He represented everything you wanted in a player, someone who understood the stakes, who knew how to win, and who made the game feel more secure every time he stepped onto the court. You knew what to expect when he had the ball in his hands, and you could rely on him to keep the team composed during those tense moments. Sure, there were ups and downs, injuries, trades, and that heartbreaking knee injury during the playoff run, but Danny always found his way back, always showed up when it mattered most. Even when he left for Memphis, then Cleveland, and eventually returned for that short stint with the Sixers, it felt like he was part of this city's basketball DNA. He left Philly, but Philly never left him. Now that his playing days are over, you can look back at his career with pride. 3 rings, countless clutch moments, and a legacy of professionalism and hard work. And yet, his contributions go beyond the stat sheets. Danny Green was more than just a shooter, he was a champion, a mentor, and a steady presence that helped the Sixers team grow. So, what's your favorite Danny Green moment in a Sixers jersey? Was it that clutch 3 in the playoffs, or maybe just the way he carried himself on the court, always calm and collected? Let me know in the comments. But before you go, don't forget, if you want to stay on top of everything going on with the Sixers, you've got to subscribe. This is your place for all the latest Sixers news, updates, and analysis. Hit that bell so you never miss a beat. Because if you love this team as much as I do, you know every bit of Sixers news counts. Stay in the loop, stay connected, and let's keep cheering for the Sixers together.